Everybody. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. To start off with, this is a long movie, and it's actually just put on Netflix. You can see here, and it's actually 2 hours and 46 minutes, which is definitely on the longer side of movies. When I first saw that, I was a bit anxious. I wanted it. I didn't want to waste 3 hours of my life, and I didn't. I did not. After watching it, I do think that it absolutely needed those 3 hours. And because when you think about it, you're literally telling the story of a life. And it's really difficult to do that in an hour and a half and 2 hours, whatever. The framing of the story, that is, telling it through the hospital, the death scene, and all that. It makes sense in terms of having a really old lady tell the story of this person who aged reverse chronologically. But something about it just didn't sit right with me. I thought they made it very clear as what was the hospital and what wasn't, and that wasn't a problem. Maybe it was the hurricane. Throughout every hospital scene, they're always about the hurricane, and I just don't understand why there was a hurricane. Maybe I missed something in the movie. Please let me know if I did. But the hurricane just was there, and I didn't get it. This movie really works to subvert your expectations. Of course, we are all born into this world, and we're going to die in this world. Well, we'll see about that. But we know what a 1-year-old is supposed to look like, what a teenager is supposed to look like, what someone in their 20s looks like, what someone in their 50s, 80s, and then upon death. And it really flips it on its head with this reverse chronological order. And I think we do get the fact that it's told in a linear fashion, I think, is the only way this could have been told. I can't think of what it is. But there was a movie that was fairly recently released, and it had a bunch of time skips, and people were pissed off about it. That's not the case here, where you do have this very linear fashion, and it's also interesting because, again, everyone's going this way, and Benjamin Button's going this way. I think this movie, it really is almost a philosophical movie, because we get to see things from a different perspective. As I said, this movie, the whole premise is the reverse aging, and we really don't get to think about that much, because, of course, as far as I know, it's not happened. And it really shows you the things that we value. He grew up in this assisted living home, elderly home, whatever it may be. And it just shows a lot of the human nature that I think we expect, but don't always do. I liked how it was a very simple score. It was a lot of piano notes, which of course tied into him learning piano. There was a few pop songs. I know the Beatles made it in, but for the most part, there weren't these big gigantic scores, and I enjoyed that. I do like how they kind of Forrest Gumped it. That's not really a phrase, but anyway. But I think, kind of harking back to how they had to do it chronologically, I do like how they tied it into these major events. You had the end of World War I when he was born. You had World War II. You had I believe that was the first woman to swim across the English Channel. There was a few more smaller events where you just hear them in the background, and you're like, oh, okay, that's what day it is. You hear like the D-Day announcement in the background. And I think that was a really clever way to define the time frame of when that scene or those scenes were. I think it also really shows how sad aging can be. Um, I'm sure a lot of you have dealt with death in one way or another. And we always see it in old people, especially. They mentioned him having dementia as a young child. And it's something that is so weird to us, so foreign almost, that it just doesn't seem right, and it just really pulls at your heartstrings. One of my issues with this is the whole button thing. And I get, like, he comes from a family of button makers, and then at the end he says he sold the button company, but, like, there's just a lot of missing links. And I get it, it's already a 3-hour movie. But I don't know, I don't know, I wish there was some, again, even just dialogue of what it was. George says the line is working great now. Something along those lines. I did enjoy the little comedy bits. Of course, we get a lot of that with, when, at the beginning of the movie, when Benjamin is physically old, mentally young, he's like tapping on the table with an ear horn. And, those are fun little moments. You get the guy who was struck by lightning 7 times. I think they only showed 5. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to actually double check that. But, we have those recurring themes. I guess it made sense to include him. And you did kind of need those little haha moments, because overall the premise is really sad. It also kind of shows the romance part of it, of, sometimes you're not going to be able to live the life you want, and you have to be stronger to recognize that. So here's the deal. It is a really long movie, and it does get to feel a little bit long, but not so much. And as I said, you need it to be that long. But it is a really emotional film, and it really makes you think. And I feel like it'd be good to just, like, pop open a bottle of wine and, like, have some ice cream straight out of the tub and just watch this, and, like, there you go. You're gonna cry all night. So I'm going to give The Curious Case of Benjamin Button 3.5 stars. It wasn't a super great movie. It wasn't a bad movie either. There were some points that I wish they had kind of filled out a bit more. Overall, it told the story. It told the life of Benjamin Button, and I think they did it in a pretty good way. So yeah, 3.5 stars for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and thank you for watching. Want more? Check out chrismoviereviews.com, follow me on Instagram and Reddit, sign up for the newsletter, and submit a user comment for me to read, and don't forget to like and subscribe.